So, good evening, everyone. Welcome back to iOS YouTube class, Institute of Scholars. So, today we'll be doing a review of Echo 201 and Echo 202. So, before we proceed, I would like to know if you guys can hear me. Please kindly drop, let me see your comments so that I can know you can hear me before I proceed with the class. So thank you. I can see your comments, so I'll be sure if you can hear me. So today's class will be a prerequisite for your exam that you have tomorrow. I believe we have a student that have exam for Echo 101 and Echo 201. So Echo 101 and Echo 201 is the same thing. It's just that there's some introduction of some concepts that is not in 101. So, but if you can go in line with us with this Echo 201, then you will not have issues with your Echo 101 exam. I mean for the 100 level students. So as you are joining us, please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. So today, let me know if you cannot hear me again. Please kindly drop it in the comment section that you cannot hear me again. So today we'll be starting with um, Echo 201 and 101. So Echo 201 and 101 is a basic or fundamental idea and concept for microeconomics. Please note that this particular course it's deal with the basic principle of microeconomic. So it's deal with microeconomic. That's what this course is dealing with. So when we are looking at 201 and 01, then we want to examine what are the microeconomic issues. And when we are talking about microeconomic issues, then we need to look at the concept of microeconomics. Then what is the concept of microeconomics that we are talking about? Microeconomics, it's explain the relationship among the economic agents. Please note this if you can hear me very well. Microeconomic explain the relationship among the economic agents or between the economic agents. Then who are the economic agents we are talking about in this place? Then we have two economic agents as far as it's concerned to microeconomics. The first one is household and we have firm. These are the two microeconomics, and that is what this course is examining. That is what this course is explaining, both Echo 101 and Echo 201. They are explaining the microeconomic variables. They are explaining the microeconomic issues. That is, and what is that microeconomic issues we are talking about? We are talking about the issue of, we are talking about the issue of how the economic agents behave and how they allocate their scarce resources, how these economic agents behave, and how they allocate their scarce resources. Please note this. This course is a fundamental aspect of microeconomic, not macro. So if we are talking about macro, we are talking about the economic as a whole. Macro, macro, sorry, macro is more wider than micro. Macro is more wider than micro. So, and what macro studies is, macro studies the economic as a whole, and it studies the all three economic agents. Who are the three economic agents? To make your study or your analysis to be in a macro level, then we need to include governments. We need to include government. But this course limits its scope to microeconomics. This course limits its scope to what we call microeconomics. So the basic of your exam tomorrow, what you are going to see, and the likely questions you are going to see are going to come from the microeconomic point of view. And what are the courses that will be examined in microeconomic point of view, and why we are examining all those courses? Such as we are looking at the concept of demand, if you're looking at the concept of supply, if you're looking at the concept of market equilibrium, if you look at the concept of market equilibrium, we'll be looking at the concept of a market structure, and so on. And why are we looking at all these courses? Because all these courses are microeconomic issue. All these causes are microeconomic issues. Why do I say they are microeconomic issues? That these are decisions that if any one of these economic agents is making it, it does not affect anyone another economic agent. What I'm saying is the major difference between micro and macro is that in macro level, any decision or any macroeconomic issues, it affects everybody. Either you are rich or poor, either you are good or bad. But in micro level, your decision cannot influence my own decision or affect me. What am I saying? The basic example is, let's look at the issue of demand. Your demand does not affect my own standard of living. Your demand does not affect my own demand. Whatever you want to produce does not stop me from doing my own production. Whatever prices you charge for your product does not affect me in me fixing my own price too. And that is what we are talking about micro. Micro are individual decisions that does not even influence or affect another party. But under macro, either you are there when they are making decision, either you participate or not, it's going to affect you. For example, let's look at the issue of inflation. I'm trying to use this to explain the difference between micro and macro, because if you come across these kind of related questions whereby you have to decide either you used to choose micro or macro, you have to know the difference now. Inflation, you might not be part of the people that are making policy, but when inflation occurs, it's going to affect everybody, either the rich or the poor or the young or the old. That's what I'm trying to explain. But in micro level, your decision does not influence my own decision. Your satisfaction is not my own satisfaction. Your preference is not my own preference. We cannot have the same preference. I hope you guys are getting it. And that is the major difference between micro and macro. And what we are looking at today are the microeconomic issues. So please let me know if you can hear me. And if you have any question, please don't forget to tell me if you have any questions. So now we now look at the topics under microeconomic one by one. And I would like us to start with the most common topic in economics, which is the demand and supply. Demand and supply. So I'm not going to waste time on this topic because these are topics that you understand and you can do what you have been dealing with this topic right for your primary or secondary school. Now, demand and supply. There are two concepts that is very important in demand and supply that we cannot do away with it. That in your definition, in your idea, in your concepts, you cannot do away with these two concepts. These two concepts. Then what are the two concepts? The two concepts is willingness, willingness, and willingness and ability. These two concepts goes in line with supply and demand. Willingness and ability. Before you can even pay for a particular product, that means you have interest in that product. That means that product will be part of your preference. And that means we are talking about willingness. Either you want to buy or sell, or before you are going into any firms or any market, you must have interest in that market. If you want to start selling clothes, the first thing that comes in is that you have interest in selling clothes, and that is willingness. I'm talking about the aspect of supply. But the aspect of demand, if I want to buy iPhone, the first thing first is I have interest in iPhone. That is willingness. Now, what will now make that effect to be, what is now going to make your demand to be effective is to support your willingness with ability. Support your willingness to the ability, then we call that one what? Effective demand. And for your supply to be, to be effective, you must have willingness of going into that market. For example, I'm using clothes as a basic example. So if you are willing to be selling clothes to your friends, to your colleagues, to your classmates, that's your willingness. But do you have the ability to start the production? Do you have the ability to supply your customers based on their demand? Then, whenever you are giving the definitions to demand and supply, make sure you include ability and willingness at a particular period of time with what? Various prices. Let me give you an instances. So if you want to give out a definition for demand, I will define demand as the demand refers to as the willingness. Let willingness come first, because because if you have ability and you don't have willingness, it's going to be an ineffective demand. A lot of you guys have ability to to buy iPhone 17, but you choose not to because you don't have interest in it. It is not your preference. That means you don't have the willingness, and that is going to make that your demand to be ineffective demand. So what I'm trying to tell you guys is willingness come first. So demand refers to the willingness and ability to purchase goods or services at a particular period of time with various prices. Note that one, with various prices, not a constant or a fixed price. So the same thing goes to supply. So I would like to be explaining some concepts to you under demand. There are some important concepts in the summary. I prepare a summary for you here. So under demand, there is a concept. Don't let us keep the law of demand and supply. This is very common, and I believe that you know it. So the law of demand, in fact, start dropping it into the comment section. State the law of demand for me. State law of demand for me and why demand curve slope downward. Why demand curve slope downward. Don't forget that the slope of demand curve is negative. The slope of demand curve is negative, and the relationship is inverse relationship. The relationship is what? Inverse relationship. It slopes downward from left to right. That's demand curve. But we know the law of demand and supply. We know the law of demand and supply. Please, can you guys hear me? I want to know if you can hear me over there. So I'm telling I'm telling you that in the comment section, kindly state the law of demand for me. Kindly state the law of demand for me. So by you telling me the law of demand, I will just move on. So the next things we'll be looking at here under the concept of, under the concept of demand, is we looking at change in quantity demanded and change in demand. This is another important concept. Change in quantity demanded. Change in quantity demanded and change in demand. These two things are different concepts, and it does not mean the same thing. Change in quantity demanded and change in demand. This change in quantity demanded, it simply means movement along demand curve. This one means movement along demand curve. This means movement along demand curve. Thank you. I can see some people that are giving us. Sorry, I have to use the second mic. Please, I believe that you can hear me now. So you can just tell me where we stop, where you can hear me. So I'm using the second mic now. Please, just 1 minute. I want to charge the first mic. So I'm back. Sorry for the. Okay, you can. You okay? I believe you can hear me now. Hello. Okay, let me move on. So I stop at quantity, change in quantity demanded, and change in demand. So change in quantity demanded means movement along demand curve. And the other one is explaining a shift in demand. That means this caused an entire shift in demand. That means an entire shift in demand. Entire shift in demand. So let's now examine the factors that can cause this change in quantity demand. Change in quantity demand, the only thing that can cause change in quantity demand is only the price of the commodity. Only the price of the commodity. The price of that commodity itself that can cause change in quantity demand. So and the curve is like this. So the curve is like this. We have, let's assume this is my PO. Then if the price increase from PO to P1, then the quantity demanded from QO will fall to Q1 according to law of demand. So that is, the higher the price, this is initial quantity, this is initial quantity, and this is the new price. This is initial quantity and this is the new price. So this will be Q1. So this curve here means movements along demand curve. So this is a typical example of movements along demand curve. This is a typical example of movements along demand curve. Movements along demand curve. So now let's now explain the other factors that affect quantity demand apart from the price itself. You know, when they are giving the law of demand and when they are defining the law of demand, in that context, we assume that other factors remain constant, and that's where you always say ceteris paribus. So if you assume that the higher the price, the lower the quantity demanded, this indicates that other factors remain constant. That is, if other factors remain unchanged, that's where the rule and the law can work. Other factors remain unchanged, then the rule and law will work. But if the other factors does not change and it varies, that is when we have shifts in demand curve, which is also known as change in demand. So this one is not going to be change in quantity demand again. So it's going to be change in demand. Change in demand. This is change in demand. And change in demand indicate that it shifts in demand curve. Shift in demand, the one that is explaining movement along demand, is different from the one that's explaining movement along demand. So this one now, the price remain constant. Look at the scenario according to the curve. The price remain constant. The price does not change, PO, but the quantity change. Let's assume the quantity increased from Q0 to Q1 to Q2. Now, the price remains that. That means my curve will be what? Horizontal. My curve will be horizontal. Then this is the initial quantity. This is another quantity. This is another increase in quantity. So this will cause an increase in DO, we shift. D1, we also shift. Then we have D2. So this is a typical example of what we call change in demand, which is shift. The curve shifts entirely. It does not be a movement on a single curve. This one shifts entirely, does not. So what are the factors that can cause this? One, let's look at the factors. Income can cause it. And if there is an increase in income, whereas the price remain constant, so an increase in income can allow and give the consumer ability to buy more where the price still remain the same. That's what we are saying. Income is a factor, either increase or decrease in income. In fact, let's look at this one, this kind of goods that we call inferior goods. Inferior goods. The inferior goods is inversely related to income. What am I saying is that if an income increase, if the demand for inferior goods will decrease, you can see the impact of income in quantity demand where the price remain constant. Taste is also another factor. Taste. Some people, some production, some firm quantity demand or demand increase just because there is improvement in their taste. Do you get? And some firm exist or shut down from the market just because of taste. For example, 7-Up is not like before. The demand of 7-Up is not like before as it is in the market. That's what I'm saying. So what affects 7-Up is not even the price. The firm does not increase the price and they don't reduce the price, but the demand for 7-Up or Lacasera, that's what I can just use as example, reduce because of taste. There's a time that Lacasera is having issue, and the issue is coming from the taste issue. Do you understand? And that's reduced their quantity demand. So what I'm explaining between change in demand and change in quantity demand is that it's only under the change in quantity demand. It's only the price that can affect your quantity demand. But under the change in demand is other factor apart from the price of the commodity. So price of related goods is a good one. Price of related goods. Price of related goods. Now, this is where I'll be talking about substitute goods and complementary goods. Please, hello, can you hear me now? I need to know if we are together. Thank you. Thank you, Mohammed Abiola. Thank you. So please don't forget, like this video and also subscribe. If you are with us, make sure you subscribe. We have 21 members watching us now. Please make sure you all subscribe. So price of related goods can also affect the quantity demand apart from the price, and this is where the concept of substitute goods and complementary goods will be coming in. Substitute goods are goods that you can easily substitute it for another commodity, even if anything occurs. What am I saying? Let's look at the issue of Milo and Bonfita, which is the common example that we always use. Milo and what? And Bonfita. If I don't see Milo, I can go for Bonfita. That's substitute goods. And how can demand change when the price of one commodity still remain constant? That's what we are saying. Let's assume Milo is charging his own price at 15 naira and Milo price does not change. Then Bonfita wants to compete in the market with Milo, and Bonfita can decide, let's assume that Bonfita and Milo are selling at the same price initially, which is 50 naira. Then Bonfita decides to be selling his own at 10 naira. What do you think is going to happen to the quantity demand of Milo? Whereas Milo does not influence the price. Understand that? It is Bonfita that influence the price by reducing the price so that it can get the attention of the consumer or the customers and direct their attentions to Bonfita, and they would fail to patronize Milo. Because although the price of Milo still remain constant, but it is Bonfita that play games in the market. Do you understand now? That means price of related goods, such as substitute goods and complementary goods can affect quantity demand even if the price remain the same. It's just like when we are talking about iOS tutorial and we are talking about other tutorial centers. Imagine iOS tutorial is charging 10,000 naira. Other tutorials are also charging 10,000. So I have network issues. Can you guys hear me now? So please, can you hear me now? I have network issues. So can we continue now? Please, can we continue? All right, thank you. Thank you. Let's continue our class. So what I'm trying to explain here is that other factors that can affect demand is what we mean shift in demand curve. Apart from the price, don't mistake that. Apart from the price, other factors that I have network break. So other factors that can affect it is what we mean by change in demand. So then I said price of related goods, substitutes and complementary. I've used Milo and Bonfita as example. So please, can you guys hear me when I'm using Milo and Bonfita as an example then? So if you can hear me, then I'll able to continue with complementary goods. I'll able to continue with complementary goods. So I'm trying to check your messages on my laptop here. So complementary goods. Complementary goods also affects quantity demand. Complementary goods affect the quantity demand in the sense that, okay, if goods are complements or joints, that means that you cannot consume one of the goods alone. You have to consume them together to derive your satisfaction. For example, car and petrol. Car and petrol. Car and petrol. Don't forget that for the substitute goods, if the price of one is falling, automatically the quantity demand of the other substitute goods will fall. If the price of Bonfita is falling, then the demand for Milo will fall. But complementary goods, if the price of petrol falls, then the demand for car will increase because people will demand for more petrol, and as they are demanding for more petrol, they will feel like demanding for more cars. Let's use another example, goods that are complement. Please give me an example of complementary goods. I want an example of complementary goods in the comment section right now. An example of complementary goods that you need to consume them together. And as you are consuming them, if the price of one falls, you will be encouraged to demand more for the other one because you cannot use the one the price fall alone. It's just like phone and charger. Phone and charger are complementary goods. So if the price of phone fall, that means the demand for charger will increase. You can use that one as an example. Phone and AirPod, they are complementary goods. So if the price of phone fall, then that means there's high tendency for more demand for AirPod. So I think with that, I've been able to explain to you. Complementary goods. We are still moving to, we are still do markets, we still do monopoly, and we are still going to market structure. So let's move on. We have other types of goods, normal goods, inferior goods. I've explained substitute goods and complementary goods. So I need someone to tell me in the comment section what you understand by normal goods and inferior goods and the difference between them. Normal goods and inferior goods. So somebody, you can screenshot the screen of your phone and send it to our platform so that people can join us and they will be able to understand what we are doing here. For those of the students that are not here. So normal goods and complementary. I need someone to tell me normal goods and complementary so that I will not waste time on that. So the same thing applies to supply. We have movement along supply curve and shift in supply curve. You can apply the idea to it. Movement along supply curve. Movement along supply curve means that it's only the price of the supply that can affect it. And you know the law of the supply. The higher the price, the higher the quantity they are the quantity supply. Do you understand? They are the price, they are the quantity supply. So for the movement, for the shift in supply curve, and don't forget the supply curve, it shifts from left, it shifts upward from left to right, and it have a positive slope. Positive slope. Positive slope. And it have a positive slope. You know, the slope is positive. And the relationship is direct relationship. These are things you have to know. Direct relationship. Unlike demand, that is inverse relationship. Unlike demand, that is inverse relationship. This is direct relationship. So demand is inverse relationship. So